A quick note before we get into the episode. Oversharing is a podcast for entertainment purposes only. It is not a medical podcast and does not constitute medical or psychological advice. Always seek the advice of your physician or mental health professional. All right, let's do some intentions. I will read them. Hi, Jordana and Dr. Naomi. I'm curious about your opinions on the following and if either of you have experienced this kind of thing in a corporate setting. My team has a new manager as of last summer. Every week on our team meeting, they make us do an icebreaker at the beginning and try to get the chatter to go for 30 minutes. That's a lot. I get it if everyone is new or doesn't know each other, but the rest of us has been working together for years. It feels so forced and like a waste of time, especially when everyone is super busy. Why can't we talk about our weekends if we feel like it? That doesn't mean I don't like them. I just don't care what their favorite weather is or their favorite childhood snack is. Ugh. They also schedule monthly virtual happy hours. We're all remote, and it gives me such an early COVID vibe. I cannot bring myself to attend, even if it looks bad on me for my team morale. What can I do, or what mantra can you share to help me not get so annoyed every week when this mandatory meeting is approaching? Sincerely, these icebreakers are breaking my spirit. Batch.
Yeah, when I first read this, I was like, yeah, this is a lot. 30 minutes of chit chat at the beginning of a meeting for a busy team feels like a lot.
You have to come up with a fact that no one cares about.
Right.
I agree. There's nothing worse than forced small talk.
I agree. My initial feeling was exactly the same. I wouldn't want to do this. I could see why they don't want to do it. I totally get it. But she's here for an intention. She has to do it.
The virtual happy hours, that's crazy.
You have to step back. If this was a triggered, right? I'd be like, okay, this is triggering. You're very busy. There's almost this annoying, pit in your stomach of like, I have so many other things I could be doing with this time.
Right.
And I'm doing this thing that feels like it's kind of pointless and just wasting my time and making me uncomfortable. And I remember having, and even in-person icebreakers are a little different because you feel like there's a potential to like make a friend or form a friendship or
do an activity together or something like that. Yeah.
This feels like she probably doesn't see the purpose, but this isn't a trigger. She's asking because she has to do it and she wants to feel better about having to do it. So I kind of, changing the thought process of if you can't beat them, join them, right? You have to do this. I'm going to give this manager the benefit of the doubt and kind of think about them as like what are they trying to do here? I don't think they're a sociopath that's just trying to torture people with icebreakers, like sitting in the back, like, oh, this is so annoying. I think they're really trying to create some kind of a culture of like, we like each other, we know each other, closeness. And so I get there's a difference between how was your weekend, which is very surface level chit chat. And I know like, what's your favorite childhood snack feels like stupid, but maybe it does get someone to talk about, oh, like, my father who passed away used to always buy me these peanut M&Ms and like that was his favorite snack. And, like I always remember that was a fond memory that I had of my dad or something. And then maybe like, I don't know, on their birthday, you can send them peanut M&Ms. And then now there's like this kind of like bond. There's something, a little bit of something there that you can try to say, hey, we can either try to lean into this and find a connection point. And I do think some people bond in this way because maybe they're a little bit more uncomfortable or awkward or like have a harder time naturally coming up with conversation. And it can give you just a little something different to cling on to and bring up in a further conversation or joke about. So I do think that it would be helpful to just see this as an opportunity to listen to somebody in a different way than you would listen to, an opportunity to connect in a way that doesn't make you comfortable, but that I think there could be something there. There's a reason why people do icebreakers. This seems excessive if it's
every week.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
I do agree. I'm not saying valid stamp of validation. This seems excessive, but you have to do it. So it's almost like if everyone would just lean into it and maybe he keeps doing it because he feels like it's not working or the culture. I'd be curious to hear, like, is there a problem with the culture in this company?
I would actually talk to him. I mean, that's one option. And she asked for an intention or mantra. So I think that's like the way to go if she's looking to go that way. I think that she has a few other options here. One, I think you could privately speak to this boss and say, listen, like, I love getting to know each other, but I don't really have that much time for these meetings. I have a crazy week. Like, do you mind if I come half hour in once we get into like the work stuff, just so I can make sure I'm getting the other stuff done? One option. I would assume if you're saying you're busy enough and the person cares about you doing your work, they would be fine with that. As for these Zoom happy hours, I say you come in 10 minutes. You're the friendliest person on these Zoom happy hours. You're like all in for those 10 minutes. And then you say, I've got to run. Have a great time. I think like if you go for a short time and be like on when you're there, and then leave.
Yeah, but that rather than what she's doing, which is not showing up at all right now.
Right. And the same thing for the 30-minute icebreakers. I think you could tell your boss, I really can't do these every week. If I have a slower week, I'm happy to come. The week that she comes, I'm on. She's like sharing all the stories. She's responding to everyone's thing. But you don't come the other weeks. You tell them you've just got too much going on. You're going to join half an hour in.
I think that's a good combo. There's nothing that makes like icebreaker or happy hour worse than
no one wanting to be there.
Right. Yeah. Than doing it. And on top of that, doing it in a way that feels like pulling teeth. So the mantra that I wrote for her is, I will embrace the chance to listen and get to know others in a way that's out of my comfort zone. Growth happens in uncomfortable places. So there's a part of me too that feels like this manager might be doing this because there's some type of a issue, like a problem with the culture, with the climate, with the camaraderie.
But that's not on her. That's on that's not to the top.
I'm right. So he's trying
to overworked.
Perhaps, right? Maybe she is overworked. I'm not saying she's the problem. But she's definitely, and she should communicate, like you're saying, this isn't helping. This isn't part of the thing. But I think some people do have this kind of like, and I'm sure not the only one, but have a little bit of this, like, I'm not here to like, I'm just here to do my work and go home. I'm not here to like be nice and chit chat and maybe he's pushing it in a way that doesn't feel right, but maybe there is a climate of like, I don't want to know about you and I don't want to like be friends. So there's like a block there.
Well, then I maybe suggest an in-person happy hour.
Well, I guess I don't know how far apart they are. I don't know where everyone lives, but yeah, I think it's perfectly fine to address this with the manager in some way. Either we're all overworked, right? So maybe you're right. Maybe the underlying issue is they're all overworked, super busy. And he's like, half an hour.
Right. What's your favorite color?
Right. And they're just annoyed about that. So it's not going to work. Versus like, maybe if we weren't so overworked, we'd be able to be more friendly and chipper. But I think there's some underlying issue that he's trying to solve by doing this annoying thing when you're already perhaps all overworked.
Yeah. So maybe suggest something else to him that might bring the team together that is less
time
that works better for whatever the current situation is.
Yeah. I wish I knew more about this, but I am interested in like these workplace dynamics where it feels like there's just some kind of a culture issue that the manager, I'm not saying she is the problem, but like part of the problem in the sense of like, I don't really care to feel any type of relationship with my coworker. Like, I don't really want to have a relationship with my coworkers. I don't want to know that much about you. Or
I kind of also think that's okay.
I would love a follow-up, just some more details on why. This just does seem super excessive So if you have any more info on like why you think he's doing this,
keep us updated and let us know if there's anything, if you actually say anything to him about changing this. All right, let's do some triggers. Do you want to read our first triggered?
Hi, Jordana and Dr. Naomi. About 2 years ago, a woman transferred onto my team at work and completely changed the dynamic. What used to feel like a supportive, family-like team now feels toxic. She comes across as entitled, self-important, and constantly tries to position herself as superior to everyone else. There's a widespread belief on our team that she's sleeping with our boss. Even if they aren't sleeping together, his favoritism and behavior feels irrational and unfair to the whole team. The latest example involved a conference in France that both of them were attending. Multiple team members asked about their travel plans, and typically it is discussed in team meetings. To hear about it from clients first was very strange. Instead of simply answering our questions, both were evasive, and our boss ultimately responded by criticizing us for asking and implying we should focus on our jobs instead. I get incredibly triggered by situations that feel unfair, especially when I see favoritism, hypocrisy, or people behaving badly without consequences. The truth is that this workplace drama doesn't directly affect my job that much, but it takes up way too much space in my head. I find myself replaying events, getting angry, and wanting justice even when there's nothing productive I can do about it. Sincerely, a seeking justice, losing sleep batch. I can understand the urge to want to be like, something sketchy is happening. This isn't fair.
Right.
I can't just weird. Sit back and keep watching this.
I think she's going to have to.
There's nothing you can do. It's nothing unfair is really happening to you other than like a tone,
a sense of sneakiness or a sense of like weirdness. And I think if she feels that, other people feel it too. But like she said, it doesn't actually directly affect her. And she's already leading it back to like her own, what she knows about herself is this sense of like being triggered by unfairness.
I get it. It would be really annoying. You're like, you're favoriting this person. Seems pretty obvious that you guys have some kind of sneaky relationship going on outside of here. And the symptoms of that are oozing all over our meetings and our planning. And like you would say, I would just probably enjoy talking shit with everybody else about it. And that's your outlet. And
then if it does actually affect you, I think you can bring it to HR.
Right.
Like if there is something that you feel like is happening to you specifically, and this France plan that they're being weird about doesn't really seem to affect you, I would just stay in your lane. But if it does, if like you get passed over for this person, or if something like is actually happening that is affecting you, I think you can bring it in. But otherwise, I think you just need to like say tell yourself, this is my own thing about favoritism. I don't know. Like she says, people behaving badly without consequences. I don't know she hasn't described anything so horrific. Like they're being weird about their France plans. It's not like, they're stealing from the company.
Sounds like they're sleeping together and they're like changing the dynamic. Like everyone always kind of talks about their travel plans in meetings and they're like not doing that because they're probably like.
So then the dynamic can now be like, we're talking shit about them. That's like the dynamic is they've like made themselves this separate entity and now everyone else can still have the same dynamic, just kind of like talking shit about them.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Like we're just going to change the dynamic, like accepting the change.
Yes.
Right. This is how it was before. Now the two of them have their own little dynamic. I mean, I don't know. She doesn't say that either of them are like married or anything. Like maybe they're just gonna have a romance and live happily ever after, and they're going to just be together. Like maybe that's a way to look at it. Like
that's what I'm saying. The whole like favoritism thing seems to be like them being sketchy about the France details and like being a little snippy about it.
Yeah. It's not like, there's some huge promotion that was given out after a short period of time that she didn't deserve so yeah, it's interesting because it is kind of hard. Like the idea of, they met and they fell in love or something that's totally unacceptable is hard, like, I don't know. You meet at work, you meet someone, you fall in love with them. It's I know it's that you're not supposed to do that. And a lot
of people do.
Right. power struggles and one's a boss and one's not. But it doesn't sound like there's anything immoral really about what's happening other than that they met at work and it's kind of tough.
Right. Making a weirdness.
Yeah.
I would give this a 3 because it's like a little weird, but it's not really affecting you.
I agree. It's not affecting you yet. I get it. I'm sure there's just little subtle favoritism things happening along the way. So I get that that's annoying. But again, maybe I'll give it a 4 just because I'm sure there's some intangible favoritism things that you're picking up on that are hard to articulate, but accepting the change and maybe wishing them, in some ways, it's hard. You're kind of like, okay, fall in love. It's great. What's so bad about it? Really? But that is a tough place to fall in love when he's the boss and she's, an employee. But again, it's a sticky situation. Yeah. Let us know if anything develops from here. Love an update. But right now I see nothing that's happened that's really crossed any major lines. So yeah.
All right, let's do one more. Hi, Jordan and Dr. Newman. I have a triggered scenario regarding maternity leave with the company I work for, and I'm trying to understand if I have a right to be triggered or if my 8-month pregnancy hormones are just raging. I work for a medium-sized startup company. I've been with the company for 5 years, and I'm at a VP level. When my husband and I reached out to my head of HR asking about the company's maternity leave policy and all available benefits, my HR person told me the company offers 5 weeks of paid maternity leave. There's short-term and long-term disability, and our company also offers unlimited PTO. I got pregnant. I told my boss and HR person at 8 weeks. I've been checking in with my boss and HR to establish the final leave plan. For months, the leave plan discussion has gone unanswered as it's early. We still have time to discuss this and just refer to the company handbook. Now I'm 8 months pregnant and I asked for a meeting. A few days later, my HR person called me directly and asked how much time I plan to take off because my boss is going to freak out if you try to take more than 5 weeks. He thinks you're trying to ask for more time off and he's pissed. I clarified I'm trying to map out a plan based on the benefits that the company offers. I then called my boss directly and my boss stated, I can't have you out for more than 5 weeks. In our meeting the following day, I clarified I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm trying to understand what the company policy is and what benefits I can utilize. They both stated short-term disabilities only needed if something goes wrong with the delivery. I apologized that I did not understand that about the short-term disability. I proposed I take the 5 weeks maternity leave and then take 2 days of PTO for the following 7 weeks. They said, we'll get back to you. It has been 4 weeks since this discussion. I'm now 35 weeks pregnant and still have not received an approved maternity leave plan. I'm extremely frustrated and triggered by the lack of answers and planning on their end. Based on how this maternity leave discussion has been handled so far, I am considering leaving. How triggered can I be? Am I overreacting or is this a justified reason to leave the company?
Yeah, this is really triggering.
This is really annoying. Yeah. She's been trying to get ahead of it since the beginning.
I think it's triggering on 2 levels. One, when she asked about the plan, if the short-term disability was not a part of that at all, then why did they even mention it?
I'm pretty sure you legally you get disability. I think 6 weeks is the mandatory, at least in New York State. I don't know what state she lives in, but I'm pretty sure in New York State, 6 weeks is you kind of have to mandatorily give something.
So the fact that one, they brought up the unlimited PTO, they brought up the short-term disability when she mentioned all the things about maternity leave. And then when it comes time for the maternity leave, basically none of that matters except for the 5 weeks.
Right. And even just the being shamed about even taking the 5 weeks of I can't have you out for more than 5 weeks. Most people take a lot more than that.
All that. And now she's 35 weeks and they're not even giving her an actual answer on what her plan is.
Yeah. How is she supposed to plan for herself if she doesn't have a plan?
Yeah. This is very triggering. And I think not only for this pregnancy, but if you're planning on getting pregnant again and staying with this doesn't bode well for how they handle things.
I mean, definitely take your 5 weeks if you're going to leave, but
yeah. And the other triggering part is just not having someone basically ignore Like they're ignoring her.
Yes. And then almost like, it feels like almost like gaslighting her. Like she's like tried to address the situation and then they bring it up and like almost say like it's her fault.
Right. I'm assuming there's no other women in her company that have gone through this that she can talk to. It's like a small, she said medium size.
I don't know what that means.
Like, I wonder if there's any other women that you can talk to and find out like how they've handled this.
Here's what I would do also. I would document every discussion you've had about this topic. I would like document that you reached out at 8 weeks, that what they said, like the whole thing. And then I would take all of that to HR and say like, this is really disappointing. You're also like being pregnant is a protected class. So they're not going to like fire you for bringing this thing up. Like you're not allowed to fire someone because they're pregnant. But I would document everything you have and I would go to HR and I would say like, this is like, I'm feeling very upset and I'm feeling very like ignored about this topic that I've tried to get ahead of. And I kind of like, don't feel like I have a plan. And I've really tried very hard to make one and just lay it all out and kind of be like, it's not really her job to like make the maternity leave policy.
Right.
Like that's a policy. She's just trying to find out what it is.
Right.
And she hasn't been adequately informed about it. So I would just go there and I would say that. And I would say like, it's just really upsetting. And for me and for anyone else who's working for this company, like this really needs to be ironed out. And it's not her job to iron it out.
Yeah. What it sounds like they're coming back to her with is you have 5 weeks maternity leave.
Right. Not a day more because I can't have you gone for more. Yeah.
That's basically
Which again,
what they're
if they
saying
had said that, and again, if they had said that at 8 weeks when she asked what the policy was, like, okay, that's the policy. Assuming it's legal. I don't know what all the laws are. But assuming the policy is legal, that's their policy. Like she can then do what she needs to do around that policy.
Yeah, but they knew it. They knew it was shameful. It sounds like that's their policy. They were ashamed of their policy. So they tried to like hiding your peas under your potatoes.
Yeah. And you have unlimited PTO.
That's like kind of what it sounds like is happening here. They had a shameful maternity leave policy. They knew it was shameful and they were trying to hide it underneath a bunch of other crap so she didn't see it. And now, surprise, the baby's coming. And they're like stalling because it sounds like their maternity leave policy is 5 weeks. That's it.
Right.
And they don't want to like face up to that.
So I think, yeah, in the short term, I would plan for the 5 weeks thing. In the long term, I wouldn't judge you for finding a new job because of that. That's a very annoying way to be treated, I think, when you're in like this vulnerable pregnant position. Again, it would be, if that was the policy, that's the policy, that would be fine. But I think the way they went about it is weird. I would talk to HR and like let them know that it's really frustrating and really weird and like not really very fair. And then, yeah, if you want to, you've got 5 weeks, I'm sure you'll be busy, but if you want to like peruse some other jobs, I think that would be I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah. And I don't know if we're the people, but I would definitely talk to someone who's like a employment attorney perhaps, or someone who can weed through this nonsense of whatever unlimited PTO is. And when you go and you presented a plan, okay, and maybe just go in firmly, I don't know, with that plan.
You have unlimited PTO, they said, so you can take 2 days anyway, right? Because you have unlimited PTO, so you can take 2 days a week as long as you want, technically.
So maybe with the other potential, I don't know, again, I'm a psychologist, I'm not an attorney, so this is not legal advice, but you just say, you write a formal letter, here is my maternity plan.
Right. Based on what you told me.
Based on what you told me.
When I asked originally, which is you said 5 weeks full, and then I have unlimited PTO. This is the PTO I'm taking in the weeks after that.
Tell them instead of asking them. And then just, if they're not answering you, here is my intention. Here is my plan. Put it in writing and then just execute said plan. If they don't want to respond, you
take what's yours.
Yeah, take what's yours. Yes. Again, they're not going to be happy. If they're unhappy enough, they will respond at what they're ignoring you at this point.
I give this whole thing a 6 is in the way that it was dealt with.
I'm going to even give it a 7. I find that this is, just the sketchiness and the not responding when knowing that she's 35 weeks pregnant and they're still not responding is very, very annoying.
And to say like he thinks you're trying to ask for more time off and he's pissed. Like it's not like she has, I can understand if they were like, she has 8 months off and then like you're trying to get more time. 5 weeks is nothing. It's crazy. If you have a C-section, you're not even allowed to work out until 8 weeks after.
Right.
And look into disability, like the actual disability laws in your state. Again, or just talk to a lawyer.
I agree. This sounds very sketchy. And the delaying and delaying and delaying, like you could have a baby any minute right now. And now you have to deal with this while.
Yeah, it's really not fair.
I want updates from all of our listeners this week. Updates, details, just a little bit more to, kind of fill in the gaps here. All right. Well, I think we helped some people. Workplace stuff, work-life balance.
Yeah, let us know what you think in the comments.
You are enough. You are all enough. You're doing enough. Believe it. All right. That's our time.
Great work today.